Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a question and answer session to help you build your absolute best cloud computing career. Perhaps you're looking to become a cloud architect, or a solution architect, or a cloud engineer. If so, that's why I'm here to help you build your absolute best cloud computing career. Personally, I've been working in technology now for over 25 years, and I've been helping others get their first tech job or get promoted in tech for more than 2 decades, and I want to help you get cloud hired. That's why I formed Go Cloud Careers. And because I've been working in this industry for 25 years and spending decades helping people get their first tech job, their best tech job, get promoted in tech. And I want you to have the career of your dreams. I had an absolutely amazing 25-year technology career. And now it's my turn to pass the torch and raise the next generation of technology leaders. I'm excited to do it. I've got somebody that gets hired every day. Just yesterday, I had another student that got hired as a cloud architect, and another one told me they're on their last stage of an interview with another managed cloud provider, and a second student also told me that as well. So my world's about getting people cloud hired, and I'm here for you completely free, actually every day on YouTube, to help you in some way, shape, or form with your cloud computing career. The reason I come online is I know that most people are lost when it comes to building their careers, just like I was. Somebody in the beginning of my career advised me to do certifications. I took boot camp after boot camp after boot camp after boot camp, racked up 6 certifications, 3 of which were professionals, and no one cared. And then I finally got good guidance on how to get hired. And not only did I get hired, I got hired for a job that was better than the one I even applied for. And I had a rocket ship career. I had a job where my first job they wanted 10 years experience and I had 0. My next job they wanted 15 years experience and I had 6 months. And I was a principal architect within a year and a half of the time I began. And I know exactly how to take you to build your absolute best cloud computing careers. And that's why I'm actually here right now to help you all completely free. Now, before we begin, let's talk about some things that we have going on for you completely free to truly help you build your best cloud computing career. Join us next Thursday for the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. You come on this webinar, we will tell you how to leverage your life experience to get your first cloud architect job. We'll tell you what hiring managers desire in a perfect employee. We'll tell you exactly what the role is, and we'll tell you all the things you need to learn to get that first cloud architect job. We'll even teach you how to skip those HR people that'll auto-reject you when you lack experience, how to get directly to the hiring manager, and how to prove that you're competent so you can get hired. I've got students getting hired every day with no experience. I can give you lists and lists and lists. There's lots of video testimonials on my website. What others say is challenging, we do every single day, and that's why I'm here to help you build your best career. Now, in addition to the free webinar, I'm going to tell you that about 100 people on my team work together to create another AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate and Professional ebook, all in a single book, and we're giving it away completely free. There's already been 60,000 downloads of previous versions of this book, and I want to help you get cloud hired. So many people use this throughout their certification preparation, and they also use it as a reference book for their career. 100 plus people, hundreds of years of experience went into writing this from people of various specialties. So download it, it's completely free. Now, if you're looking to take our training to go from certified to cloud hired, or even starting out without certifications to cloud hired, we have a 30% discount on absolutely every program we have right now using coupon code security. So take advantage. This is the perfect time for you to get cloud hired using coupon code security. So at this point, give me a hashtag cloud architect, a hashtag solution architect, a hashtag cloud engineer, or whatever the careers of your dream, and start asking me questions so I can assist you. I want to be sure you know exactly how to get your first cloud architect job, first cloud engineer job, first solution architect. So ask us your questions. In the meantime, give me a hashtag, your career, give me a hashtag of where you're at, because I love to know where everybody's at. And then ask questions so I can assist you. Good morning, Eddie Patrick. It's good to see you. Marixa, so good to see you. Ask us your questions. Don't be shy. I don't bite. And if you've not been catching up to our boot camp all week, I hope you have been. If you haven't, you can still go back and watch days 1, 2, and 3 of the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp we're doing, and catch up. Cookie Monster, good morning. How are you? My favorite character from the
And
Sesame
Mike,
Street.
I think you need to remind them that you're only going to be here until 11 o'clock.
Absolutely. Today I'm only going to be here till 11 o'clock till the boot camp. So if you're here, please don't be shy. Ask your questions now. Cookie Monster, I'm wondering, do you have a program that's more one-to-one? Well, actually, Cookie Monster, you're in luck. So when I started to start a Go Cloud career, I had one mission in mind. I had actually surveyed 1,000 AWS certified people. I actually interviewed them, and not a single one knew anything about cloud computing. Now, sure, they knew the name of the service and how to configure that service, but they didn't even know what those services were. And I knew none of them would be hireable. So I came out of retirement, and I tried to come up with the absolute lowest cost program that I could do to get people cloud hired. And it was wildly successful. We've been written about in about 60 magazines so far with regards to our extreme success in terms of taking people from brand new to getting them their first cloud architect job with absolutely no experience. So we were super successful on that. And we did it, which was my goal, for a single day's pay for the average graduate, which, to me was, how do I take an education that can get somebody a $150,000 to $300,000 job and make it for less than $1,000? And I did that to make sure that people anywhere in the world could afford our program. Now, we've also found that certain people wanted to do a bunch of private one-on-one coaching with us, and then we sold private coaching sessions. And when we do private coaching sessions, people do even better because then we're even able to give them more guidance. So next year, in the beginning of the year, we're going to be releasing a special elite version of this program that's going to include coaching with our coaching staff, a lot more business acumen, a lot more business executive things and leadership things. And that's going to be a highly accelerated program. It's really going to help people get the most elite jobs, have better leadership skills for more rapid career progression. But I got to tell you, I'm beyond excited. Our average students graduate, from our $1,000 program with a job between 150 and 287. That's the majority of them where they're actually at. So, that makes me incredibly excited. That makes me incredibly happy because, I view that as incredibly successful. But, here's the thing. We're going to do more. We're going to create those really, truly elite programs to go from this excellent program that we have now to something very special with small batch coaching. It's going to be highly accelerated with much more access to the team. I'm going to tell you right now, we've got the perfect staff for it. We have 4 MBAs on staff. We have someone with a master's degree in economics. It's an economics professor in addition to that. We've got someone with a master's degree in law. And in addition, we also have 2 PhD business school professors. Now, it's not going to diminish our current program because that is my mission in life, to make sure that anyone that wants a cloud architect job can get it. So we're going to keep our incredible program. We're even going to be making that better too, because I'm never satisfied. I always want perfection, and every day I try to get closer and closer to perfection. But we're going to have a very special program, and it's going to be exciting. I'm excited about everything. I'm excited with every cloud hired we get every day. I'm excited that we're getting so many people cloud hired that, realistically speaking, are now getting hired for almost nothing. So super exciting to me. But yes, I'm very excited about this program, working on it very aggressively, and kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Yes, we do have something coming. Zach Marquise, you just started our classes, already watching some content. Fantastic, Zach. Now I'll see you next week in class when normal classes resume. Excited to meet you, excited to see you, excited to start designing some architectures with you, excited to see you present in front of the class, and excited to see you get better every day. Can't wait to be working with you. Yeah, bring us your questions. How will the career opportunities for freshers be in DevOps? Volta, I think it depends where you're actually at. So from my perspective right now, given the state of the economy and where we're going, I think that architecture careers are going to be growing in US and UK and Canada in the short term and the long term. Why? Because here's what's going on. We're going through some global economic changes, and what do cloud architects do? They provide digital transformation. They help businesses be much better. They help businesses be more profitable, and they help businesses determine what technologies can get them there. Cloud architects, I'm going to get to you in DevOps in a second, but I'm starting with architects for a reason. Cloud architects bring in a lot of money to the business. So when business in an economy is weak, people invest in architects, they invest in sales reps, and they invest in other people that are bringing in money. Now, when you're dealing with engineering careers, during economic downturns, engineers get laid off and they get outsourced to different parts of the world. So if you're going to ask me how I feel about DevOps in the next year, in the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, I would say, not my favorite thing, a little scary right now. Now, if you're asking me about DevOps careers in, say, India or Africa or Pakistan or the developing world, when I see the US going to more architects and outsourcing more of the engineering, I see that it'll be a boom for people in the developing world. So I think it's really dependent upon where you're at going on economically as we're in this situation that we're at. So depending upon you're there. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now, vote. Most people in tech are so busy focused on getting 1,000,001 certifications that they don't know anything about anything. If you want to be a DevOps engineer and you want to be a good one, make sure you've got excellent software development skills first. Then make sure you truly understand the DevOps tools, Jenkins, Spinnaker, and all these other kind of things. And then learn the cloud DevOps things. But don't think this is a career where certification is going to be anything close to enough. Make sure you're going to have good knowledge of Kubernetes, good knowledge of infrastructure as code like Terraform, and good knowledge of all the cloud and non-cloud DevOps tools. So I think it depends on where you're at. I do believe DevOps is a good career. We don't teach it because it's not our expertise. We don't teach anything related to software development related to software development. But actually, DevOps to some degree is going away, and it's now becoming SRE. The whole point of DevOps was to reduce the silos between application development and operations. And the problem is, it didn't exactly work the way people wanted it to in terms of simplifying things and reducing silos. It helped in some ways, created a new set of problems in other ways. So any of these careers like DevOps, they'll be migrating towards other things such as like SRE, but that's not there. The network engineers like me became cloud engineers or cloud architects, depending upon the training they did. Most of the networking people like me have been working on cloud since 1996. It's nothing new. And 10 years ago, we started finding ourselves in the new version of the cloud. But first cloud I worked on was Frame Relay. The next one was ATM. The next one was the RFC 2547 BGP cloud. The one after that was the VPLS cloud. So make sure you've got good, strong fundamentals, Volta. And by doing that, DevOps is big now. A year from now, DevOps is nothing, and there's a new version of DevOps. At least that way you can keep migrating towards it. So I think it'll be good, but I think it'll be better if you're in the developing world. Architecture career is going to be hugely demanded in the countries that are doing the most, that are the biggest countries in the world, because they're now going through the most digital transformation. And that's the architects that know how to tie the pieces together and improve business performance. And it's the engineers that can put it together. And I love those engineers. They're important. But it doesn't matter what part of the world your engineers in. So I see engineering, especially with the kind of training that the cloud providers are putting out there. Now, they're not doing it in architecture. They're doing all this admin and engineering work. Their goal is to lower the cost of the engineer salaries. They can't lower the cost of the architect salaries because the architect's a business executive that does digital transformation, but they can really knock down the cost of the engineering salaries by promoting, menial engineering training, not getting into the depth of how things work or why they work, just how to configure stuff. Cameron, how long does it take the average student to complete our program? It depends. I like to say between 8 and 12 months on average. I've seen people get through it faster. I've seen people take a little longer. For us, you have to understand this. Our average salary upon graduation is about $160. Now, we've got students graduating between $120 at the lowest. I think I remember saying $287. I've got a couple in that range as well. And to get a job that pays $150,000 a year on average, normally speaking, would cost you $250,000 in education. You'd have to go out there and get a bachelor's degree and get an MBA, and still you're dealing with lower salaries than we're actually talking about. So the fact that we can do it for about $1,000 and it takes us 8 to 12 months, we're pretty proud of that. But you have to understand this is not a simple thing. It's like a certification, Cameron. We actually have to teach you a lot. We have to teach you network technologies, data center technologies, cloud technologies, how to sell, how to present, how to lead, how to build a business case, how to have executive presence, how to do executive writing, executive level presentations, CXO relevancy, and build your executive presence. And Cameron, when you do this, not only will your career take off like a rocket ship, you'll notice your personal relationships will get better from the soft skills that you've been trained in by us. You'll notice that your salary will rise. You may even get promoted in your current job while you're actually going through our program. Most of our students have, or I should say many of our students have. They call us and they tell us that their manager puts them on new projects and they're like, wow, you're different than you used to be. You speak differently, present differently. But about 8 to 12 months, I'd say, Cameron, on average, and I would love to work with you. And I would really love it, 6 months from now, 8 months from now, 9 months from now, you say, Mike, I'm caught hired. So about 8 to 12 months on average to get through our program. We're highly successful. It's a big party every single night. I don't like to drink, but I used to drink a glass of wine every time I had a student get caught hired. Now I can't do that anymore because I become an alcoholic if I drink every time a student got hired. So I don't do that anymore. But we still have an internal celebration every single time that our students get hired, which is almost every day. I hope that you're one of them, and I'd love to work with you, and I'd be honored to do so. Firefox. Hi, Mike. You benefited by our work so much. Excuse your ignorance, but I'm fairly new into this. What's the difference between cloud and SD-WAN? Well, it's all dependent upon your definition of cloud. If you're looking at the SD-WAN itself is actually a cloud, but we're not going to go there. If you're looking at today's modern cloud, what you're actually dealing with is a hosted data center. So imagine like you go to a hotel and you rent one room in that hotel. That's what the cloud is. Normally speaking, we have our own data centers prior to cloud, and these data centers are filled with routers and switches and servers and storage and load balancers and firewalls. That's a data center. When we rent them from the cloud, we're just renting out space in somebody else's data center, kind of like renting a room in somebody's hotel. Now, when you're in your room in your hotel, if it's a good hotel, you can't hear your neighbors in the room next door. So when you're on the cloud, you're sharing the cloud with other people, but nobody can see your stuff at least theoretically, unless the cloud gets hacked. It's kind of like a room in a hotel. Now, what SD-WAN is realistically speaking, normally within network, we've got our happy little routers on the internet. Inside of the organizations, they're running an interior gateway protocol, which is usually OSPF or intermediate systems to intermediate systems. And then in between organizations or autonomous systems, we run BGP. And normal internet routing is based upon the routing table. You go to the router, you do a show IP route, depending upon which part of the world you're in, and you'll see all the routes in your routing table and which interfaces the router is going to take them. Now, what SD-WAN is really, it's about separating the control plane and the data plane. So normally the routers do the forwarding of the traffic and they build the map of the network. They build the map with BGP. Now, that's great, and we've been using BGP forever on the public internet. But the problem is, internet routing is based, you're on my systems, then you go to another systems, then you go to another systems, then you go to another set of systems, and you're there. That's the way now internet routing is. But the routers do this. Now, SD-WAN is really cool because it's a little different. So SD-WAN is about separating the control of how the traffic is forwarded with, the forwarding. So with SD-WAN, we have like this eye in the sky. Kind of think of it like this little satellite. And the satellite's watching all the internet traffic, what's congested, what's not congested. And then that information is given to the routers themselves that say, hey, reroute your traffic based upon congestion or latency or whatever the thing is. So normal routing is all done on the routers and switches themselves, layer 3 switches and routers. And SD-WAN is about taking the logic off of the routers that's doing the forwarding and still using the routers to do the forwarding, but the logic is telling them how to do it. So it's kind of like having a conductor in the sky. So you may note on your GPS in your car, it may say, Traffic ahead, 30 minutes of traffic expected. Would you like to reroute? Well, that's really what software-defined networking actually is. I actually wrote a very simple overview of software-defined networking on HackerNoon. And you can read that if you like. If you just Google Mike Gibbs, software-defined networking HackerNoon, you'll see it pretty much everywhere in all kinds of magazines. But that'll give you a very simple, high-level overview of that. DM Kumar, you're inspired by our lectures. Thank you so much. You're a seasoned network engineer certified in a couple of things. You're an MBA graduate too. Please suggest you how to become a cloud architect. Well, here's the thing. You have to understand that engineering and architecture couldn't be or more unrelated. So there's a network engineer that does the routing. He goes to the router, config D, router BGP XYZ, enable remote this. That's engineering. That's hands-on stuff. Now, architecture is completely different. Architecture is about how do you put the pieces and parts together. So the first thing you need to do is stop thinking like an engineer, because you can never touch the technology again as an architect. Your job as an architect is to design, present, and sell. So get used to doing the following. If you're not used to giving presentations in front of huge audiences, get some presentation experience or take our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. If you're not used to responding to RFIs, RFPs, and RFQs, get some experience learning how to respond to these. If you've never built a business case and an ROI model to show the customer that their $1 billion in technology spend is going to give them $2 to $3 billion in business value, make sure you learn how to do that. Now, in my MBA program, they taught me a certain way of writing. That writing was academic, theoretical. Now, in real world, as an architect, we don't touch that stuff ever. We have to take 40 pages of document, break grammar rails, and turn it into a 2-page document. Now, as an architect, we have to publish some thought leadership documents. We'll constantly do it to be influencing marketing. So make sure you learn how to write in a fun, conversational, and totally professional tone. Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Now, I don't know your sales skills, DM Kumar, but you're going to have sales skills. So make sure you learn how to sell. Make sure you're familiar with selling and communicating to auditory, visual, and kinesthetic people. Make sure you need to know what to say to the CEO, CFO, CIO, CTO, because you need to be what's called CXO relevant. Make sure you develop your executive presence, and make sure you can de-engineeringize your resume. Because nobody wants an engineer as an architect. I'm going to say that again, nobody wants an engineer as an architect, but if you have experience as an engineer, that can be highly helpful. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you've done real network engineering, and I don't mean just configuring stuff, but planning out, how you're going to traffic engineer BGP across equal cost links, and you're used to doing heavy-duty route aggregation, route summarization, and building an IP addressing plan for an organization with 30 to 50,000 remote locations, that's good stuff, and that's going to be valid experience. Now, the next thing is getting you not to look like an engineer. So if you have configured BGP on this, we need to get rid of that because that's not what architects do. We need to translate that into design multi-homing solution to three ISPs that increased availability by 22%, which increased revenue by XYZ percent due to the web application still being there. So for architects, our role is transformation. For engineers, their role is the tech. So you're going to have to show the people that you're not a techie, that you're an executive. Because, I speak to hiring managers every day. I speak to CIOs, CTOs, people from the cloud providers come and talk to our students, and they say, look, I love architects. We need them. But we're not looking for a techie. So the things, DM Kumar, you need to really know are those network and data center concepts. As a network engineer, I never worked on data center concepts. I didn't work with load balancers, for example. My CCI number is 7417, and I spent about a decade working at Cisco. And I've been teaching people networking forever. And I love networking. It's near and dear to my heart. So pull out the architecture things, meaning the design things, and get rid of all that stuff that you've done from engineering. Make sure you master your business skills. Learn those data center technologies, such as load balancers, IDS, IPS systems, VPN concentrators, which you probably do know, next generation firewalls, storage area and networks, server virtualizations and containers. Stay away from stuff that's part of other people's careers like DevOps or SysOps or machine learning. That's a data science career. Stay away from those kind of things because that's not anything the architects are doing. Understand what they do and how to integrate them. But it's really about changing your focus, DM Kumar. It's about going from thinking about how to do the tech to thinking about how the pieces and parts all fit together in a unified system. I'm going to tell you, I had a senior network engineer, Joe Millen. He came to me, and within 3 weeks of my program, he was hired as a senior solution architect with AWS. And I get lots of people hired as solutions architects and cloud architects that come from a networking background. It's the best networking background, but the key is, are you willing to give up engineering and go to architecture? Are you willing to put on the Armani suit each day as opposed to the engineering uniform? Are you willing to present? Are you willing to take your clients out for dinner? Can you bake like an architect? And if not, we could train you easily. Or you can get some CXO relevancy training, and you can do that on your own. It'll be a couple $1,000s for the training. You can do it. Get some executive presentation training. You can do that on your own. It'll be a few $1,000s, or you could take our course. Get some sales training. You could do that on your own. Again, it'll be a couple $1,000s. You could take our course, which is basically a single day's pay. I don't really care how you get there. I just want you to know exactly what to do. Because remember, architects aren't about whatever's taught in the certification. Certification has nothing to do with what we do as architects. Certification is the name of a service and how to configure that service, but architects don't configure. We design, present it. So good background, by the way. L. Channer, what's the difference between a cloud architect and solution architect? Well, in AWS, they have funny names for this, but generally speaking, here's the main difference. As a cloud architect like me, when I'm going to go meet with my client and they're going to say, Mike, I need a critical availability, critical security environment, I'm going to say, okay, well, let's take your data center and turn that into a Nutanix cloud or an OpenStack cloud. Let's offload some of your stuff to AWS. Let's set up some of these things on Google. And it's all about creating a solution for your customer that's the most critical availability. Now, 87% of customers are on more than one cloud, 87%. And 97% want to be because they know a single cloud is a single point of failure. So a solution architect will design just an AWS solution for you. A cloud architect will design a solution across AWS, Azure, Google, and everything. The reason I train cloud architects and not solution architects is I don't think you can get a job if you only know one cloud. Actually, I know you can. And the second reason is my students, either they work as cloud architects and design hybrid clouds, multi-cloud, or they go work for AWS or Microsoft or Bearing Point or Accenture, and they still do solution architect work. But at least my students are prepared for both. Any cloud architect can take a solution architect's job every day of the week, but a solution architect can't work as a cloud architect without getting extra training. So difference is cloud architect, multi-cloud, or one cloud, or whatever needs to be done. Solution architect, I only know one. There's no point in only knowing one because everybody's multi-cloud. Great question there, El Chana. Let's go to the next one. Jijpal Palme, you're more than welcome. We try to make sure that certification training is available free for all. What kind of documentation should an architect be prepared to write? Example, high-level designs. Now, Cosmic Brain, we cover everything you need to write. High-level designs might be 2% of the documentation that architects do. Architects respond to requests for information, requests for pricing, proposals, requests for quotes, which is pricing. Architects have to write thought leadership documentation. Architects need to write sales documentation. Architects need to write white papers for the organization. Architects will need to document the design, and it's not just a picture. That picture will include a nice document. Usually there's 3 versions of the document. Something high level that's 2 to 3 pages for the executives that are going to write the check for it. Something that's about 20 pages for the management team. And something that's going to be there for the technical team. So we're going to be writing that. Now, as an architect, we never design anything for ourselves. We meet with a client, and they tell us these are their business needs. And then we go back to our organization and we build the team to put it together because no one person designs any real architectures ever by themselves. It takes a team. So we're also going to be writing to go to the management team in our organizations, and we're going to be justifying why we need to borrow people from these departments. Because if I need to take 50 people that each cost $200,000 a year, then let's be fair. We've got to justify to the company why we're doing this. So RFIs, RFPs, thought leaderships, architectural documents, white papers that we're going to be writing, business cases we're going to be writing inclusive of ROI modeling, meeting notes, statements of work. These are the kind of things we do, Timeframe 21, and we teach all of them. We know right now that that's what employers want. By the way, this is what I've done for 25 years as an architect. I'll tell you, 30 to 50% of your time as an architect is going to be spent documenting. And that's why people that get certified and don't train in these things will never get hired, because this job is a finesse job. You need to be trained to write these kind of documents. What do you write for the CIO versus CTO versus CFO? And those are what we teach, and those are the things that are necessary. Could I recommend some of our favorite approaches to finding a good recruiter? Yes, that's what we do in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. But if your LinkedIn profile is right, and you're doing the right things with regards to your branding, you'll be attacked by 20 or 30 as soon as you realize it. And by doing them, then you can interview them. You can see what those recruiters know. You can determine the recruiters' relationships. You can see whether they really understand the job, or they have the ability to ask the hiring manager. A good recruiter will interview you, practice interview you, tell you the things the hiring managers are looking for, and understand and have connections. If I call Christina Marino or Steve Aracrillian at ITXL in New York, and I say, I need somebody with these skills, Christina will come back within 24 hours and say, Mike, here's your 3 best candidates. Because she's spoken to the candidates. She's had conversations with them. She knows their strengths and weaknesses. She knows my goals, my needs, and she can put someone directly with me. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. We spent a lot of time in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, but a little bit of brief history that we're talking about right now is making sure that you know exactly what the employer needs. And that's the key. A good recruiter, like a Christina Marino, if I said to Christina, hey, sold my company for $10 billion, and what I want to do now is I want to go be a cloud architect for this company, she'd say, sure, Mike. She'd call that company. She'd say to that company, I got Mike Gibbs, who's been an architect for 25 years. He just sold his company, and I don't want to ever sell my company. I love my company. I love my students getting graduate. I'm just giving you an example. And she would then say, I think you should talk to Mike. Mike's helped these people, these people, these people. And they'd say, sure, I'd like to talk to Mike. That's a good tech recruiter. And we have extensive training in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program on how to find them. Is it necessary to have a deep level about AI, ML? Well, if you want to be a data science, I would learn a lot about AI, ML. But unless you want to be a data science, that's somebody else's career. IoT domains? Well, again, you need to know something about it. But what's the point of IoT? That's what you need to understand. How do you use the IT? Look, we're not engineers. We don't get hands-on. Why am I using IoT? Am I using IoT to collect weather data so that I can forecast a storm to save lives? Yeah, that might be the application of that you need to understand. Am I looking at machine learning to parse through large amounts of data so I can make a better business inference? Yes, as an architect, I need to know that. But what am I going to do as an architect? I'm going to go find myself an AI ML person that's going to really get in the weeds and do it. That can look at, do we need these servers? How many GPUs need to be in these servers? Do I need PyTorch, TensorFlow? Am I using a cloud-based thing? But that's not my job. That's my data science job, or my data architect's job. Same thing with IoT. That's a network person's job, not a cloud architect. The cloud architect is the person that puts all the solutions together. And that's really the thing. You're trying to turn architecture into engineering by these questions. Architecture is a business executive business executive. It is not a techie. It is not a techie. And that's really, really where these people get this wrong. So everybody wants to tell me they want to do all this engineering learning. And then your customers are telling you this. Gartner interviewed CIOs and they say, what do you want in a cloud architect? By the way, this is your boss, the person that signs your paycheck. And they say, look, we want someone that can lead the cultural change for cloud adoption, develop and coordinate a cloud architecture, develop a cloud strategy and coordinate the adoption process, help find talent with the necessary skills, assess application software and hardware, create a cloud broker team, establish best practices for cloud across the company, select cloud providers and vet third-party services, oversee governance and mitigate risk, working closely with the ICT security people to monitor privacy, develop incident response procedures, manage budgets and estimate costs, and operate at scale. See, that's what we do. We do that. We design, present, and sell. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Welcome, Kumar. Recently passed an associate exam, interested in cloud engineering, currently doing the resume challenge. Ooh. Are there any portfolio projects in your cloud engineering program? Well, BSC, we're no longer accepting people into our cloud engineering program right now. I will tell you the worst thing you could possibly do is a cloud resume challenge until you actually have the skills to be a cloud engineer. I will tell you that if you had the certified solution architect professional, that might be about 7% of what's necessary to be a cloud engineer. So long before you touch your resume, you need to get the right skills, and here's why. You don't want to be brought on in interviews before you're ready. And if the only thing you had was, say, the certified solution architect professional, and you may have a good background, I don't know. You're going to go on interviews, and what's going to happen, they'll interview you, and then they'll say no, and they'll mark you down as never interview again, and they'll burn your bridge there. So prior to doing a resume, you need to understand the job, because otherwise you don't even know what you're going to put on your resume. So I would make sure that I had good Linux skills, almost to a Linux engineer level. I would make sure I had good Python skills, almost to a Linux engine, almost good Python skills. I would make sure I had good Bash shell scripting skills, for example. I would make certain that I have really good Kubernetes skills if I was a cloud engineer. I would make sure I had extremely good Terraform skills if I was a cloud engineer. And then once you know that, and you truly know how these things are used and applied, then go back and do your resume. Because basically, I got to tell you, I see people that go through resume challenges every single day, and I look at their resume and they give me a million reasons why I can't hire them. And what happens is people put things in their job. Like if I see a resume that says cloud architect, hashtag cloud engineer, it's trash. And the reason it's trash to me and any other hiring manager is the person doesn't even know the difference. So the key is I would not do a cloud resume challenge. I would learn the skills, and then I would write my resume after I knew what the job was. And that way, what's on your resume is what really needs to be there. And then when you go on an interview, and you won't even have to apply for a job, the world's going to come to you if you build your brand properly, you'll get sucked up there without even applying. Like Delroy Bad, he never applied. My students don't apply for jobs. The world comes to them because they have the right profile. But you can't just put stuff on your resume. And it's not just portfolio projects. I mean, my students build a cloud, for example. Why do I have my students build a cloud? Because when everybody's talking about their S3 buckets, which I can teach an 8-year-old to do, my students build a cloud. So, those are the kind of projects that work. Build your Active Directory servers. Build this stuff out. Build yourself a cloud. Work with next generation firewalls and configure them. Work with real web applications and configure them. Do some real work on Linux. Do some infrastructure as code. Write some Python scripts to automate some stuff. That's the stuff. And once you've done that and know that, not only will you have portfolio projects, then you'll have things to put on your resume. But don't put anything in your resume that you're not an expert on. And here's the reason why. Here's what happens when I see a resume. If I can capture it in the first 1/10 of 1 second, I read it. If not, it's trash, like all hiring managers. And then I'm going to interview you on the stuff that's on your resume. And if you put it on your resume and you can't speak to it expertly, interview's over. But what's going to happen is I'll tell you thank you. I'll come back when you have more experience. Come back when you have more experiences it doesn't mean that you have no experience. It means we interview someone because we think that we could hire them. And if they don't have the skills, we tell them to come back when they have more experience. If they do have the skills, we hire them. So My recommendation, Busey, is get the skills first, resume second. Bake the cake before you put the icing on it. That would be exactly what I would recommend. Become a very skillful cloud engineer first, and then after that, then go down the path of worrying about your resume. What are different cloud architecture patterns? Kumar, this is where you need some real serious architecture training. And what I mean by that is, in the engineering world, they're like, oh, here's my reference architecture. Here's my reference architecture. I'm going to use it. It's an architecture pattern. In real world architecture, that's a disaster. And here's the reason it's a disaster. The architecture patterns are based upon your customer's business problem. What business problem are you trying to solve? And that drives your architecture. When we have people that try to do the tech first, what happens, they implement some tech on the company. It hurts the company's business because it changes their workflows. So cloud architecture patterns are interview your CEOs, interview your C-level executive, interview your department heads, interview your ground level engineers, interview the customers, read the balance sheets, read the financial statements, see what industry analysts are saying. Then figure out what the actual challenge is, figure out what you can do to solve those problems, and then figure out what technology can solve them, and then go haul all the various partners across the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 companies that are necessary to build that architecture. That's how you design an architecture, just like a management consultant. You don't solve it before you ask them. You need the business. So that's the difference between engineering. Engineering has patterns. Architecture solves business problems, and you can't come up with a pattern. You need to know what's solved. And I'll give you an example. I was an enterprise architect in healthcare, and there were two sides of us. There were 50% of the people that were doing architecture patterns, and I never did an architecture pattern for this reason. I knew, and I work with clients every day. I'd go meet with a client and they'd say, hey, you got something for him? And I'd say, tell me about your business. Tell me about your workflow. Let me watch what your nurses do in your hospital. Let me watch your processes and procedures. And they'd say, really? I'd say, yes, I want to make sure the solution works for you. And I would design solutions based on the hospital's business challenges. And they were all wildly successful. Now, there was another set of people that focused on architecture patterns. Here's the tech stuff, and I'm going to shove it down your throat. And here's what happened. Prior to electronic health records, we had 98,000 deaths related to medical errors per year, which was astronomically high. And that was, prior to the US government mandating electronic health records. And it was the 5th leading cause of death. Really scary stuff, huh? It was. Then the US government mandated electronic health records. Now, my customers were successful because I focused on workflows. But the other people that had architecture patterns that were shoved down their throats, do you know what happened? Medical errors became the 3rd leading cause of death in the US, from 98,000 up to 251,000. So by forcing technology without looking at what people did, we've almost tripled the number of people that died due to medical errors. Now that's scary, scary, scary. So there's no such thing as an architecture pattern. There's what business problem does your customer solve, and how do you solve it as an architect? That's the key. That's why engineering and architecture is so different. Good question, DM Kumar. We could train you how to design it and figure out business requirements, but that's really, really all the stuff that matters. James T, in your earlier videos, you recommend full immersion training, and you talked about switching your computer to a Linux machine. Would I still advise this? I generally do recommend people that are not used to Linux turn their computer into a Linux machine. And if I was trying to do it as cheap as possible, I would probably do that. We've gotten much more sophisticated and successful at getting our clients hired. And in the old world, James, and I used that for about 15 years. Pretty much every young person I trained that wanted a tech job, I made them get rid of Windows and put Linux on their system. So I would still say it's good, cheap ways to get used to some critical skills in Linux. The market's actually been pivoting towards more business and their architects and actually less tech. So now I would say, I would want you to do more than that. That worked before. But now, 2 years later, we're getting into a world, there's more competition in the world, people being more selective. So I would say, the labs that I would do, I'd either take a course like mine, James, or I'd buy a server, and the server's going to cost you $2,000. There's no way around it. Get a Xeon system with at least 16 to 24 cores in it, minimum 128 gigs of RAM, SSD drives, 3 SSDs in RAID 0, or an NVMe drive, and build a bunch of Linux machines and get used to using them there, build them Windows machines, build Active Directory servers, build Linux file servers, build VPN concentrators, build firewalls, build your own cloud. You can't do that kind of stuff on a notebook. So the things that I was doing years ago worked years ago. The world's getting a little more selective in what they're willing to hire right now and more competitive. So I probably wouldn't do that. Now, James T., if I wanted to be a cloud security architect, I might take my computer and turn it into Linux for a little while and put Kali Linux on it, and then, do some hacking of some other systems you have around the house with the Kali Linux laptop. That one I might do. But really, James, in today's world, the people are getting more and more, I want business. So I would be much more focused on the business. And I would also be more focused on, what's going on with our next generation firewalls, writing a security policy, the kind of training that's necessary for anti-malware, anti-phishing, anti-social engineering. What is, the more about the processes and procedures that are necessary should a hacking event occur, who's on that, because this is more cloud security architect work. And I got another cloud security architect hired just yesterday. I would say I would get much more involved in, building my contacts with identity and access management and the types of industrial grade identity access management. I would learn some network layer security. I would get involved in end-to-end encryption, data loss prevention, security event monitoring, those kind of things. I would focus much more on that. Still, it's good for you. And yes, I wouldn't mind, you turning your notebook into Kali Linux and kind of trying to hack all the stuff around your house. That's always a good thing. And this is only if you don't need to use your computer for anything else. Only if you need to use your computer for something else. Because when you do this, you're going to lose everything on that computer. So still think it's a good thing to do, but there's better ways to train in today's world. I did that only for people that couldn't afford it. But, I think we put together a training program that, basically speaking, the basic plan is $350. And you get to use our servers and actually get an education along the way. And I recommend our live classes, because in live classes you can really learn that stuff, because I can interview you as an architect. But, if all you've got is a notebook and you don't need to use that notebook for anything else, yes, go do it. I recommend it. If you have the option better, I recommend you do some labs on a server. But remember, the architect job is about business, leadership skills, executive presence, communication skills, emotional intelligence. I'd be focusing on that. And design. Good question, James T. Christian, go to the next one. A cloud architect does not touch the technology. So, no, they're not going to be working in co-location like centers. They're going to be wearing a suit, and they're going to be at their home. They're going to be taking you to dinner, playing golf with you. You're not going to be managing anything. So architects design the solution, engineers build the solution, and maintenance or operations people manage the stuff. So nothing, anything close to what we do. Now, you do need to know the storage area networks and how they work so you can architect them. But DM Kumar, this is not engineering. We never touch the technology other than Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Excel, and a drawing program occasionally like Lucidchart, Visio, Draw.io. And when you reach the level of me in your architecture work, you know what you're ultimately going to be doing? You're going to be you're going to be writing it on a piece of paper, taking a picture of it or scanning it and sending it to the graphics team for them to build a beautiful design in InDesign. And midway through my architecture career, I was done with that. Actually, thank you for your insight on what should or should not be on the resume. The certification junior cloud practitioner at AWS, would it be worth placing on a resume or LinkedIn? Well, I didn't think there was a junior cloud practitioner. I think there's a cloud practitioner. Marek, so certifications are just the name of a service and how to configure that service. So it depends what you have. If that's the only thing you have, put it there. But if you had a certified solution architect professional, get rid of the certified solution architect associate and the cloud practitioner. Now, what shouldn't be on your resume if you want to be an architect is any SysOps certifications, any DevOps certifications. And I got to tell you, there's some certification providers that are telling people to do these. And then, of course, the people do these and they don't learn architecture and they're not hireable. And then when we retrain these people for architecture, we have to take those certifications off of a resume because that actually shows the person as a techie versus an architect. But if the certification cloud practitioner is the only one you have, put it there. Number X, I'm going to tell you right now, getting hired has nothing to do with your certification. I'm going to say it again. Delroy Batt recently got his first cloud security architect and had 0 cloud certification. Robert Welch, a student of mine, just got an incredible cloud security architect job, and the only certification he had was a cloud practitioner. Jeffrey West got hired by Kalian, and the only certification he had was a cloud practitioner. So it's more about your knowledge, your capabilities, and your ability to do the job. Those are the things that are going to get you hired. So just make sure you don't have a job on your resume that says AWS Cloud Practitioner, because that's not a job, it's a certification. Make sure you don't have Cloud Architect / Cloud Engineer. There you go, Robert Welch is right there. Robert Welch, while we're at it, since we're talking about resume and LinkedIn training, how many people reached out to you every single day to hire you, Robert Welch? And Robert Welch, you're an exceptional architect. And how many people reached out to hire you with only the cloud practitioner certification? And I know you got an incredible cloud architect job, and it's good to see you. 10 plus a day, Robert signed. So with our resume and branding guidance, he had 10 people plus per day that tried to reach out to hire him. And he only had a cloud practitioner. And let me tell you, there's no one that I'd want protecting my systems any more than Robert. Extreme knowledgeable in data loss prevention, knowledgeable on every side of it.
All right, so we've got time for one more question, Mike.
I think different tech stack have different architecture paths. I'm not actually sure I even understand that. You know what that might mean, Chris?
I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't understand the question.
Yeah, my response is it doesn't matter what the tech is, it matters what the company or the business needs.
It is, and it's funny. We recently spoke to another architect with Microsoft, and you know what he was saying is he's like, well, one thing common about all architects is we never touch the technology in any field. No, he was an application architect. I'm a cloud architect. I've been a network architect, an enterprise architect. Kind of keep these in the back of your mind. Jay, you're a business analyst with Python and a SQL background. You want to switch to cloud computing. You'll start with Linux automation and Python. You would appreciate suggestions. Jay, what job do you want to do? Because if you want to be an architect, Linux is not valuable, Python is not valuable, and SQL is not valuable. Now, if you wanted to be a cloud engineer, it's highly valuable, highly valuable, highly valuable. So you're just giving me a bunch of stuff. And the skills that an airplane pilot needs is different than a registered nurse. So I don't know what career you actually want. Now, some of these skills are very valuable for certain things. If you wanted to be a cloud engineer, this is looking pretty good. If you wanted to be a DevOps engineer, this might be good. If you wanted to be an architect, it's not the right direction. So cloud computing has thousands of different kinds of jobs, so I don't know how to answer you because I don't have enough information. I'm going to end with Lady Godiva's question. And I'll be back on Monday. I think the outlook for architects is quite good because, yes, companies are downsizing. And when companies downsize, they have to do more with less. And because they have to do more with less, the architects are the people as digital transformation specialists that can figure it out. So, for example, right now, it's hard to get workers, at least in my community, to do the trash. So some architect came up with a solution. Now we have automated trash machines where one person drives it and there's no longer any trash men and women in the back of the truck. Architect designed that. Local restaurant recently had trouble finding staff. The staff wanted to be paid more, so they hired a robot. An architect designed that. So when there's downsizing, architects are there. Now who gets downside? Architects generally bring money. We sell stuff. Like if I work at AWS and I close a $100 million deal during a downsizing event, I brought $100 million of revenue into the business. They're not getting rid of me. Now, that's a totally different situation. Now, if I'm an engineer and I cost money, well, that's another story. I might get laid off and be outsourced to a company with cheaper. So, Lady Godiva, I feel very strongly on architects right now. I don't feel very good. I'll be back on Monday. Somebody's asking me about salaries. I know architects that are earning $500,000 a year. DevOps engineers won't go above 200 no matter what they do, because the architects are more related to business. And Sid Sam, we've got people getting hired in 8 to 12 months with zero experience as an architect, and of course you can. But I'll be back on Monday, and I'm happy to answer as many questions as possible. You have to stop now so we can do the completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp today. So I'm going to end with the following things. And Jay, if you want to be a DevOps engineer, you're going in the right direction. I'm so happy for you. So remembering that on Thursday next week, we have our free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. Remember that we've written a brand new book. I'm passing the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate and Professional exam. Download it. It's 100% completely free. And the next last thing that I would tell you is if you want to get hired, take advantage of our 30% off discount for Security Awareness Month. The coupon code is security. Get cloud hired for basically a single day's pay for our average cloud architect in the US. Take care, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you later very soon. Bye.